Hello and welcome to Woodshed Reviews, where we look at films old and new, good and bad. On today's show, we're doing a 90s slasher double bill as we look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Bride of Chucky.
Yeah, so we ran a poll to see what films you'd like us to do next, and slasher movies won out.
So I went for Bride of Chucky, which was the fourth film in the Child's Play / Chucky franchise, and you went for
Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is the seventh film in the Freddy or Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Miss me?
Both of them came 10 years after their original films, and they were both trying to, I guess, rejuvenate the franchises, which had kind of been failing a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, because you had the final chapter in Nightmare on Elm Street.
It's a new beginning. The beginning of the end for Freddy.
Every town has an Elm Street.
Both franchises were kind of like thought to be maybe kind of dormant or released or something like that. How naive we were back in those days.
I know.
Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.
New Nightmare came out first.
1994?
1994, 10 years after the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So do you want to introduce your competitor?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen this for a while and it was a joy to watch it again. Big fan of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. After the final chapter, Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's dead.
Yep.
Nail in the coffin, that's it, done and dusted.
Welcome to my nightmare.
Wes Craven came up with this great idea, which apparently he had back in the 80s, but the studio didn't go for it.
Okay.
He got the opportunity to do it now in 94. And I think it's just a marvellous script. It doesn't rely too heavy on gore or jump scares. It's more of a psychological thriller. Yeah, so you got the actual actors from the original series playing themselves. Helen Langenkamp.
Playing Nancy.
Yeah.
Who's the original final girl, original star of the first movie.
And of course Robert Englund plays himself and Freddy.
Yeah, sure.
But I guess it's a sort of, New Nightmare is a sort of meta horror film, would you say?
Yes, self-referential.
Yeah, so it's like the Nightmare on Elm Street films exist as films within this film.
Yeah, I love the opening because it just feels like a normal Nightmare on Elm Street film, and then you realise it's a dream.
Well, you realise you're on a film set,
Yeah.
and then you're in Heather's dream, which is a recurring motif.
So that works really well for this film, and I think Wes Craven has a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I think it's just great writing. Quite slow pace, but you're there with it all the time. It's quite creepy.
Yeah, it's a bit slower paced than I remembered. The sort of start of it takes a while to kind of truly kind of get going and know where you're at with it and that. Although you can kind of probably guess a little bit because it is quite, as we say, quite meta, quite self-referential. Yeah, more of a sort of psychological one that kind of has fun with the genre a little bit, and kind of interesting because a couple of years later, Wes Craven obviously went on to do this with Scream.
Do you like scary movies?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie.
I mean, this film was not a big success. I think it was hampered by being part of the Nightmare on Elm Street name, which was fairly on the decline by this point, as were horror films in general.
Yeah, of course, the box office wasn't so great, but critically it's quite highly acclaimed. And I think it is one of the films people remember. So quite often the success of a film comes much later, not straight away.
I think they'd like to see us together again.
In what, a romantic comedy?
Just because it's a love story doesn't mean you can't have a decapitation or two.
I think Wes Craven, there's a great scene where he kind of explains this whole thing, where the films kept this demon at bay.
Yeah.
The original Nightmare on Elm Street films. Mm-hmm. But now, because they've stopped making it.
Right, yeah. He's starting to come through into the real world.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, he's been held captive pretty much as Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle.
I mean, the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I guess, the sequels now, are kind of fun and goofy towards the end, and they have a lot of fun with Freddy, but obviously the menace is kind of gone by that point.
Yeah, so it turns in very much into a cartoon villain.
Yeah.
And funny, but it's just a bit...
It's far removed from its origins and what Wes Craven wanted it to be, and that's kind of highlighted in this film where I guess Robert Englund goes on a daytime TV chat show early on, dressed as Freddy. He's kind of been diluted quite a bit at this point.
Yeah, because we as kids, we loved Freddy. Definitely got a more sinister edge to it.
Yeah, that's the word, yeah.
And the different look helps with that, I think. Yeah, and it works well, because even watching it, you feel like, I don't want this thing to come into the real world, because the child's at Fred, she's at Fred, and it does have a present.
Yeah, definitely something that was probably missing from part 3 onwards, I suppose, when it, as was said. But yeah, that's kind of like nicely done, and yeah, as I said, Wes Craven gets a kind of bit of a mumbly cameo in it. I had to kind of turn up the volume a little bit to hear what he was saying.
Yeah, not so easy on the other side of the camera.
No, definitely.
Out of films into our reality.
It definitely feels like it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because I suppose we think of Scream as kind of rejuvenating the horror sort of franchise and putting it back on the big screen and stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that this was doing this a couple of years earlier, and as we're saying, the sort of reboot and the sort of self-referential stuff and meta stuff and all that is a bit more commonplace these days in our sort of genre films.
I think it stands up well.
Yeah.
The practical effects are great.
Yeah.
There's a few CGI effects that kind of let it down a bit.
The car, the bit in the highway, some of it they've actually filmed properly, and then some of it's just in front of like a
compositing.
screen.
Yeah.
It's not so good,
I think the shot of Freddy in the clouds, it's a great shot, but it's doesn't look as strong as it could be.
I love how it kind of starts to slowly, without you kind of realising that we're going back into the first film. John Saxon's character changes from being like John Saxon to her dad in the first film. She's wondering what's going on. She's not back at her house, she's back at Nancy's house. We're kind of used to these things now, with callbacks, when a franchise gets rebooted or something like that. A prequel goes into a sequel and that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of like roll your eyes a lot at some of the stuff. But this film
hit you over the head with it, don't they?
Yeah.
Whereas this one's more subtle.
Yeah, I like that, kind of like she suddenly realises she's actually in the film.
Dressed as Nancy.
Yeah, and she has to kind of like eventually she realises she has to embrace it.
I love you too, Daddy.
Yeah, and I like the whole kind of dark fairy tale motif through it as well, following the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, the reference in Hansel and Gretel a lot.
Yeah, and it ends on that note as well, with her reading instead of a bedtime story, it's a script for the film we've just watched.
Is it a story? Yeah, it's a story. Read me some.
It's all very clever stuff, and it's all well done without being too, too proud of itself or something. It could have easily descended into that.
Yeah.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
I'd give this one 4 logs, definitely.
Yeah.
Hugely enjoyable. One of Wes Craven's best films. Not his absolute best, but up there.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. I mean, obviously you've got either side of this. You've got the original film and you've got Scream, so he's got a tough competition there.
Yeah,
for sure. But I think I'll probably agree with you. I think it's very a great idea, great rejuvenation of the franchise. was unnecessary, I guess. Everyone just thought it was kind of like that was the end of it.
Yeah, it's a standalone film.
Yeah, it's a standalone film. You would obviously have to have watched the original, or at least be vaguely, at least to be aware of it through osmosis, you know.
It helps definitely to have seen the first film.
Yeah, I think you could get away with that without the rest of them. So it would make a nice double bill. Yes. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you. 4 logs on the fire for Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Nancy.
So I decided to go a little bit more lowbrow with Bride of Chucky.
Hi.
The franchise had been quite dormant. 2 and 3 had not done very well. They weren't very good either. That didn't help compared to the first one. And so this was a similar thing of like, well, you know, let's change it up a bit. Let's do something different. Almost kind of a genre sort of swap from horror comedy to comedy horror. Is it a classic? Maybe not. Is it as good as I remembered? Maybe not. But I still had fun with it. This was possibly the first time I've watched it without a couple of beers.
Right.
So I was feeling like, I don't know if you've seen that clip of Homer Simpson watching baseball for the first time without a drink.
Looks like he's going and getting himself a new bat. And now there's a beach ball on the field. And the ball boys are discussing which one of them's gonna go get it.
I never realized how boring this game is.
I still enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I feel it's well made. It's definitely was needed after Child's Play 2 and 3.
Yeah.
They were not so good.
Yeah, so this was another franchise that's maybe done and dusted, and
yeah,
you never can really expect it to bring back Chucky.
Not at the time. I guess, again, naivety from us these days. If it hadn't been done then, it would have been done now. And as it has been, it's been a couple of legacy sequels, a remake. I think it was a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't checked that out yet, but I don't know if I will. I think in terms of, it's a comedy horror about killer dolls. It's about as good as it you can kind of get from that, I think.
Sure. And do you need to have seen the previous films, do you think, to watch this one?
No, not so much. Not as much as you would, I think, with New Nightmare. I think you can get away. Well, I mean, you can certainly get away with just watching the first one and then going to this one. It does kind of reference. There's a sort of Chucky reference in it where he talks about the sequels or something like that. But it's just a kind of a joke that you can get knowing that those films exist.
Well, it's a long story.
It sure is.
In fact, if it was a movie, it would take 3 or 4 sequels just to do it justice.
So yeah, there's a lot of that helps get through it, like Chucky's quips and stuff. Like there's a central romance that's kind of going on, a kind of Romeo and Juliet, eloping lover sort of thing. And it's kind of always kind of intercut with Chucky having a sort of an acerbic little quip.
Oh, that's so romantic.
I'd give him 6 months. 3 if she gains weight.
And it's all kind of tied together pretty well with these two stories. Chucky is trying to get to his actual body from the first film along on this road. It's a kind of road journey sort of thing.
It's a road movie, yeah. So he's brought back here by
a former lover.
Yeah, who's not in reference in other films at all.
No, she's not in the 1, 2 and 3, and played by Jennifer Tilly, who's, we find out her character was obviously thought there was more to the relationship than Chucky did.
Yeah, because there's a wedding ring involved, and she thought it was an engagement ring.
Yeah.
And that's not.
He was just going to pawn it.
Yeah.
So classic Chucky.
You mean you weren't going to ask me to marry you?
What are you, fucking nuts?
So that leads to a confrontation between those two, Chucky as a doll and Jennifer Tilly as Jennifer Tilly. Her spirit is put into a doll as well.
And so we've got this road movie with Jesse and Jade.
They're not aware of the dolls. Well, they're aware of the dolls, but not that they're alive. And
Yeah.
so as they sort of start to go on the journey, a trail of bodies starts to amass, starting off with the girl, Jade, is it you said, her uncle.
Yeah.
And then the murders get pinned on the young couple who are eloping and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have some sort of like kind of comedy moments with that sort of thing where they both suspect each other.
Would you please stop talking to me like I'm the one who's crazy? You're the crazy one. You're the
multiple murderers.
You admit it?
No, I don't.
I can't take this shit anymore.
They get entangled with another couple at a motel who are trying to burgle them, but pose as newlyweds.
Yeah, that's right.
They end up dead as well.
Yeah, nice scene with the Tiffany doll. Yeah, nice kill scene.
Yeah, there's lots of good moments in it as well where they're kind of, Chucky is kind of like lamented as being a bit old hat. And his methods of killing with a knife is a bit, so 80s, you know, sort of thing.
For God's sake, Chucky, drag yourself into the 90s. Stabbings went out with Bundy and Dahmer. You look like Martha Stewart with that thing.
Who the fuck is Martha Stewart?
So he sort of embarks on different methods
Yeah.
to various effects. So
blowing up a car.
And blows up a car, a sort of makeshift nail bomb of sorts.
Yeah.
Now!
So yeah, some creative kills, and even just I like the accident with the gay friend who comes to meet the couple, and uncovers everything, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And then he steps in front of a truck.
Yeah.
Chucky's like, "That'll do."
Nobody move! That works too.
In terms of the franchise where it was at that point, it definitely rejuvenated it. I'd agree it's not as good a film as New Nightmare. It doesn't quite get to that kind of heights, but it's enough for me to kind of get me over in that hurdle. And I think, as I was saying to you, what do you expect from a killer doll comedy sort of thing? If you've seen the sequel to this, Seed of Chucky, that's pretty bad.
What the hell is going on in here?
She came on to me.
No wonder her career's in trouble.
Seed of Chucky. That's my boy.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Jennifer Tilly was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Her voice is used in the films after this, isn't it?
Yeah, and she makes appearances as well. I think even in the Curse or Cult of Chucky films, possibly. Can't quite remember. It's been a little while since I've seen them. But I think Brad Dourif has said that this was his favourite film to make.
Oh, okay.
Because he gets a lot of great lines in it and stuff, and a lot of fun had with Chucky. I wouldn't agree with him. I think Child's Play, the original, is definitely the better film. Mm-hmm. But I think, like Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and New Nightmare make a nice double bill. I think that Child's Play and Bride of Chucky are a pretty decent double bill as well.
Quite different, but quite fun.
Yeah.
We don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It wouldn't harm your brain cells.
Definitely not, no.
Yeah, like you said, it helps with a few beers.
Yeah, I'll remember that next time. I'm going to give it a 3. I think that's pretty fair. It's definitely, I think it has become, again, like New Nightmare, a bit of a cult following and stuff like that. And I can understand that. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's a decent laugh, and then that's it, it's done.
Yeah, I think 3 is fair, yeah.
Go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back.
Okay, so is that us for our 90s slasher double bill? If you voted on that, thanks very much, and I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Check these films out. But for now, that's all we've got for you. We'll see you next time.
See you then.
Miss me?